Insanity in Canada as many people take to the streets in favor of the attack on Israel. This is all over the web at the moment. This story coming from True North. Hundreds of anti-Israel protesters descend on Nathan Phillips Square in Toronto. And this isn't just happening in Toronto. This is happening all over Canada. But this is an article talking specifically about what's happened here. Just days after the deadly Hamas attacks in Israel, which killed hundreds of Israeli civilians, jubilant pro-Palestinian protesters staged a large unsanctioned gathering outside Toronto's Nathan Phillips Square on Monday. Organized by the Palestinian Youth Movement, the march, titled All Out for Palestine, began at City Hall and ended at the Israeli consulate in Midtown Toronto. Now, many people, you might think, okay, well, perhaps there are people who are there in support of Palestinian civilians, not this attack, things like that. No, this isn't what the case was, actually. Speaking to True North, one protester holding a sign with the words "End Apartheid Now" said that the terrorist attacks carried out by Hamas on Saturday needed to happen in order to free the Palestinian people from 73 years of occupation, genocide, and apartheid. When asked if the terrorist attack was justified, the protesters said, yes, it is justified. Resistance in any means necessary. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But this is happening all over Canada. Many posts on Twitter showing this. TikToks from the party last night in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto. Shocking celebrations were had over the Hamas terror attacks in Israel that included kidnapping and rocketing attacks, resulting in 500 plus Israelis dead so far. I believe the count is up to 1,000, I believe, at this point, and thousands more injured in this case. Andy No pointing out that in New York City, they're also celebrating their Hamas celebration rally is happening now in Times Square in New York City. The direct action was organized by a coalition of Palestinian nationalists, leftists, and socialist activists. These people are all coming together under this one umbrella to celebrate an act of terror. This is now, you have to understand, this was an attack against civilians in a country. This wasn't attacking military outposts or anything like it. Not an act of warfare, but an act of terrorism. Just now, Mississauga, Ontario, after dark, a truck of young men cheering in support of Hamas terror attack is in Israel, waving Palestinian flags. Again, all over the internet here. The post-millennial posting on Twitter saying, pro-Hamas supporter flashed an image of a swastika to Jews in Times Square. This is really getting serious at the moment. Rupa Subramanya at the pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas rally, which is currently underway in Ottawa, maybe about 200 people here, some holding the Palestinian flag, some holding the Communist Party of Canada flag, chanting "Free Palestine, free Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and God is great" in Arabic. Kareem Assad also showing up to one of these protests at Nathan Phillips Square and showing off what's actually happening. I'll share the audio here for you.
Where you running to?
So, are you from the side? Yes. Okay. Cool. That could have been a good thing or a bad thing. We don't know. Protesters, demonstrators, I don't really know how to frame this, but are moving around Nathan Phillips Square. There's chants. There's a very heavy media presence as well. Lots of photographers, passionate people.
Unbelievable, actually, unbelievable. Now, this is taking place all over the place. In the wake of Hamas terror attacks in Israel, pro-Palestinian group in Montreal chants, down, down Israel, and from the river to the sea. That's the same chant from the other one. New York City, again, from Andy No, posting this. This is Toronto on a bridge. They had people in the same sort of vein doing this. Also, Andrew Lawton pointing this one out, and this is at an Edmonton rally where they openly call for saying that any Israelis are fair game, that civilians are actually enemy combatants, and using some framing for their justification for this.
Let me explain this. There's no civilians. There's no civilians. First off, any Israeli is under the Israeli law should enlist and serve in the Israeli army. There's no civilians. They're either on or off duty army forces. They're not civilians. And if they're civilians, what are they doing in the border? What are they doing in a contested border? If they are civilians and they care about their livelihoods, they should stay away from the border. Why would Israel put civilians that are not Israelis on the border? If it's a border and you know it's contested, let your civilians be. Thank you very much. So
absolutely abhorrent moral justification. I'm going to remind the audience that the people that did go there, they were also killing children. Does not fall under any sort of justification. This is just an act of terror. Absolutely. Now, CUPE, the union, came out in support as well. As an organization, they've done some awful things recently, going after parents who care about their children, and indoctrination in the school system now are in support of terror. Palestine is rising. Long live the resistance, says CUPE Local 3906. Kirk here on X saying speechless. A union in Canada is cheering and supporting terrorism. Were they also cheering for the World War II bad guy in the House of Commons? Canada's unions are absolutely insane. Now, the post has been removed only after the backlash, of course. The post has been removed. Now, Viva Fry even weighing in on this one. This is a real tweet from CUPE 3906, who represent workers at McMaster University. It's absolutely unbelievable. Now, the original tweet said, Palestine is rising, long live the resistance. And then it gave a quote from Ghassan Kanafi, or Kafani, sorry. Well, yeah, this is clearly in support. And they're not the only ones in support of this. This is an article from True North again. Senior Liberal staffers share post defending Palestine revolutionary violence. So actually supporting the violence part of this whole thing. Brandon Montour, who is listed as a senior legal affairs advisor to Liberal Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Anadasangari on the federal government employee directory, also shared a post supporting Palestinian liberation through whatever means necessary. Now, this is a person who is a legal advisor. A legal advisor would know the difference between supporting something that advocates for actual violence and something maybe a little less along those lines. He's clearly supporting that. Now, what happened was he was sharing a post from a Marxist-Leninist proletarian feminist account, and the post was justifying the violence that happened there. Now, here's the post here. Revolutionary violence is not terrorism. It's a fight for liberation. Might I remind you, they were killing women and children. Now, Justin Trudeau came out in condemnation of what occurred there, saying the glorification of violence is never acceptable in Canada by any group or in any situation. I strongly condemn the demonstrations that have taken place and are taking place across the country in support of Hamas attacks on Israel. Let's stand united against attacks of terror. Justin Trudeau mustering up the the ability to actually stand on the right side of history for once in this scenario. Pierre Poilievre also having a speech here. I'll give a little excerpt from it. I'll leave a link in the description. You can go check out the whole thing for yourself.
Shalom. It is with a combination of heartbreak and outrage that I join with all of you here today. Heartbreak for the innocent mothers, babies, grandparents, partygoers, peace activists who suddenly and inexplicably lost their lives at the hands of an unprecedented terrorist attack. And
I'll leave the link in the description. You can check this out for yourself. Moving on. Breaking news, Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, we will turn all the places in this evil city where Hamas is hiding into ruins. What happened today will not be seen in Israel, and I will make sure it does not happen again. The IDF will immediately use full force to destroy Hamas capabilities. We will avenge this black day. So obviously they're going to be making giant strides to destroy and create more conflict in the region. Lauren Chen even posting this about Joel Pollack, who is a senior editor at Breitbart News, saying this is a literal call to genocide. As he says, I have broken the Sabbath and Jewish holiday to deliver this message. Israel should wipe out Gaza, allow 48 hours to evacuate women, children, and the elderly, destroy everything that remains, plow it under, and annex it to Israel. This is the end for Hamas and Palestinian terror. Now, this is yeah, that's abhorrent. I just the calls for war again when things like this happen. Of course, justice needs to be seen, but this is people immediately jump onto the blanket let's go to war sort of mentality. Now there are accusations that Israel allowed this to happen, as if it's a lie hop situation. Let it happen on purpose. They heard about it and let it occur because then this could be used as justification. Now, this isn't my opinion. This is what opinions are online here. Breaking: Netanyahu and Israel were aware of the attack before it happened, making the allegations that they heard about this from Egypt and that they were forewarned before this attack happened. The footage in this TikTok here is of these men paratrooping in through what they call the Iron Dome that's impenetrable, somehow penetrated it and got in. Now, moving on from conspiracies or what happened, Scott Adams took to Twitter to say, how is this going to be? How is this even a good strategy for Hamas? Why would they do this? Of course, immediately from the surface, you would imagine as soon as they do this, there's going to be massive counter strikes on the West Bank and Gaza, and that would not be good for the people. But it's just drumming up more conflict is what it is. Jordan Peterson replying, it's simple. Hamas is a front for Iran. Iran wants to unite the Arab world against Israel to stop Saudi Arabia from signaling the Abraham Accords. Biden is enabling this because the Democrats refuse to give Donald Trump credit for advancing peace in the Middle East, and the other reasons about which we can only speculate. Now, you'll notice on a lot of news outlets when they refer to Hamas now, they'll be referring to Hamas as Iran-backed Hamas. This is a new strategy, and this is a new phrasing that they've been using, and well, we can see why. They've been trying to drum up conflict with Iran for some time. This predates Donald Trump entirely. There was no real issue of that happening while Trump was president, but now it's happening again. Now, this going back years is Ron Paul on the Senate floor, the Congress floor, saying this is all, and he just explains it perfectly. This has been an issue happening for a long time, and it's largely due to intervention that causes these kinds of scenarios.
What's happening in the Middle East, and in particular with Gaza right now, we have some moral responsibility for both sides in a way, because we provide help and funding for both Arab nations and Israel. And so we definitely have a moral responsibility, and especially now today, the weapons being used to kill so many Palestinians are American weapons, and American funds essentially are being used for this. But there's a political liability, which I think is something that we fail to look at, because too often there's so much blowback from our intervention in areas that we shouldn't be involved in. You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel, because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first indirectly and directly through Israel help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. During the 80s, you know, we were allied with Osama bin Laden, and we were contending with the Soviets. It was at that time our CIA thought it was good if we radicalized the Muslim world. So we financed the madrasa schools to radicalize the Muslims in order to compete with the Soviets. There's too much blowback. There's a lot of reasons why we should oppose this resolution. It is not in the interest of the United States. It's not in the interest of Israel either.
I'll remind you that this happened decades ago. This is what Ron Paul was saying, and here we are today. Israeli-Palestine updates saying Hamas is claiming that Ukraine sold them the weapons that they used in the attack against Israel. So this going along the lines of what Ron Paul was saying in that video, and that would include Canada in this light, because we have been supplying them with all of these weapons. Now, here's Joe Biden, even before when he had a different face. I don't know how he looks so different these days, but this is Joe Biden years ago describing about how, well, this is what would happen if they pulled out of Afghanistan. The weapons would be used against us.
It's a big difference to tell the American people the truth about what our options are in ending this war. If tomorrow the order goes out from I'm President of the United States, I issue an order, end the war today, begin to withdraw all American troops. It will take a year to get the American troops out. Do you hear me now?
And that's not what he did.
That's the truth. It will take a year to get them physically out. Now, if you leave all the equipment behind, you might be able to do it in 7 months. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday.
You hear that?
You leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday.
Yeah, so he knew about this, and then he obviously pulled out of Afghanistan when he did how he did, and that's exactly what went down. Now, even the CBC, according to True North, doubles down on not referring to Hamas as terrorists. Why? Why? Absolutely why? The CBC is standing by its policy of not referring to Hamas militants perpetrating violence in Israel as terrorists, despite backlash from Jewish advocacy organizations. In response to Hamas's attack on Israel that have killed at least 700 Israelis, civilians, injured over 2,000, the CBC Director of Journalistic Standards and Public Trust, George Aki, sent an email to the broadcasters, journalists, and instructing them not to refer to anyone as terrorists when covering the conflict. And like I said earlier, what I've been seeing is them calling them Iran backed Hamas. This seems to be the new narrative, Iran backed Hamas, and pushing it into this. I tried to remain as neutral in this reporting as I possibly could, with, of course, the exception of my, being appalled by support for any sort of violent attacks on civilians. Please leave your comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about this whole scenario moving forward. Of course, I don't really, it's hard to have a dog in the fight. I'm a Canadian. I care about Canadian issues. And this is clearly something that happened overseas to civilians, and we're disgusted by attacks like this, but of course, you'll have to forgive me for taking a very Canadian perspective on this issue. Now, of course, you can leave your comments in the comment section down below, and I hope that everybody does that. And we'll definitely see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.